Okay, so good morning, class, and welcome to your sustainability and strategic audit. So today we'll discuss the different GRI or Global Reporting Initiative standards impacting economic and environmental impact. No? So these are GRI Series 201 to 206 and 301 to 308. No? So remember class, no? So when we talk about sustainability reporting, um, we look into the different non-financial factors that will impact the organization and as well as economic, social, and governance factors. No? So today, we'll look into economic and environmental impact. So basically, what are those that we should be reporting that we should be including in our sustainability report that has impact both on economic and environmental factors. No? So what are our learning objectives for today? So number one, identify the nature of economic and environmental impact as part of GRI standards. Two, understand and describe the different disclosures under economic and environmental impact per GRI. Number three, familiarize with the related reporting template as mentioned by SEC Memo Circular Number 4, Series of 2019. Apply the minimum disclosure requirements of GRI and SEC Memo. And finally, state existing relevant laws and regulations in the Philippines that relates to this GRI impact. So these are our objectives for today. So let's just go back to this GRI standards. So remember, in completing our sustainability report, we have to, number one, follow all these universal standards. So we have GRI 1. This is the foundation, the introduction. So why we should be using this GRI, why we should be implementing sustainability reports. Number two, GRI 2, or these are the disclosures required about the reporting organization. And then number three, disclosures and guidance about materiality. So material topics. So all these three universal standards must be incorporated in your sustainability report. So meaning these are mandatory. Now, sector standards, these are sector specific. So for example, Shell. So Shell is an oil manufacturing company. So there's a possibility that there's a GRI specific to oil manufacturing. So that particular GRI may not be applicable dun sa mga nasa telecommunication industry. So that's why this is sector standards. So possible that not all GRI here will be applicable to a specific entity. And then we have topic standards. So select topic standards to report specific information on your material topics. So ito class, we have covered this also when we completed our discussion on universal standards. So what are those material topics? Classify natin yon, and then based on priority level, so we have to look for specific topic standards that will have to be applied in relation to those material topics. So like I said, today we'll cover the different GRIs on economic and environmental factors. So ito class, binigay ko lang dito yung summary. So of those existing GRIs, also their topic involved. So like for example, today we'll cover GRI 201 on economic performance, market presence, that's 202. 203, indirect economic impacts, procurement practices, anti-corruption, anti-competitive behavior. Ayun, sige. Chineck ko yun class kasi once I share my screen, wala na ako visibility dun sa chat group, no? So I also turned off yung uh, waiting room, no? So everyone can join. Okay, so on environmental, we have 301 materials, 302 energy, water and effluents, biodiversity. Okay, so today, we'll cover, like I said, we'll cover economic factors muna. No? So GRI 201, economic performance, uh, 2016. No? Ito class, ibig sabihin nito, GRI 201, so that's the naming convention. This is the title. And then 2016 is the year this standard was implemented. No? So meaning, uh, gaya ng sabi natin, it's a work in progress. No? So there's a possibility that GRI 201 may still be revised. No? So in that case, all they have to do is just change the year. No? So 2016, this was issued. So ano ba yung laman ng GRI 201? No? So it's economic performance. Again, 2016, the year this was released. No? It contains disclosures for organizations to report information about their economic performance related impacts and how they manage these impacts. No? So the standard is structured as follows. So we have section 1, contains requirement which provides information about how the organization manages its economic performance related impacts. No? And number 2, ito na yung mga disclosures required to be included in GRI 201 economic performance. No? So ito naman class, uh, really the intention to cover this different GRI is to familiarize ourselves, no, not necessarily kasi this, parang ano yan parang yung uh, financial accounting natin. So in financial accounting, we have the standards, no? Standards that we need to apply in order for us to make sure that our financial statements are in line with those standards, no? So meaning compliant tayo with those standards. No? But we don't actually really memorize all those standards. No? So we just have to be familiarized with it and make sure that we're able to apply it when we perform or when we complete our financial statements. No? So those are in relation to financial factors. No? So now in sustainability reporting, we're looking into non-financial factors naman. No? So actually, it's a combination of financial and non-financial. But generally speaking, in sustainability reporting, we're looking into the different non-financial data impacting the organization and its stakeholders. No? So in this case, per economic performance, so what are the required disclosure? No? So we have direct economic value generated and distributed. No? So direct economic value generated and distributed, no? So EVG and D, on an accrual basis, including basic components for the organization's global operations as listed below. No? So for example, the revenue, no? So we have to include that economic value distributed, no, in terms of the operating costs, employee wages and benefits. So economic value retained, so that's the direct economic value generated, meaning the revenue less all the expenses, operating costs, no, employee wages and benefits. No? So this is basic for us as accountant. No? This is simply our P&L. Next, we have the financial implications and other risks and opportunities due to climate change. No? So as you can see, we're talking of economic performance, and yet climate change is already a part of it. No? So, but that's actually the reality right now. No? So, because there are risks as well as opportunities posed by climate change that might have potential to generate substantive changes in both of our operations, managing our revenues and as well as controlling our expenditures. No? Ito yung mga um, possible risks and opportunities. No? So we have to include all of that. No? So description of the impact, financial implication. So let's think out of yung example natin kanina, 'di ba, Shell, no? So Shell is sabi natin oil manufacturing, no? So ang pinaka raw materials nila would be the uh, fossil, no? Uh, I forgot the term, no, but ito yung fossil fuel, no. So and as you know, kung nakikinig kayo sa news current events, yun daw fossil deposit, no, it's depleting. So therefore that will have impact in the operation of Shell, no. And as you know, use of fossil fuel also impacts climate change, and it actually aggravate, no, the impacts of the climate change. No? So in that case, um, we have to make sure that we are able to disclose all those financial implications, risks, and opportunities, no, due to climate change. Next, we have the defined benefit plan or obligations and other retirement plans. No? So initially, we've talked about revenue, and now on the different operating costs, no? And that includes defined benefit plan or plan obligations. No? So we have to include a disclosure in relation to those uh, employee wages. Financial assistance received from government. No? So another factor, oops. Okay. So another factor that we have to include, no, in our sustainability report in relation to GRI 201. No? So ano ba yung mga financial assistance that we receive from the government? So tax relief or tax credit, subsidies, investment grants, and the like. No? So for example, kung PEZA entity ka, it's zero rated, no? So you're not being charged with value added tax, kaya zero rated ka. Mas kabisado nyo to dun sa tax subject nyo, no? So if you're qualified for a tax relief, then you have to make sure that it's being disclosed, no, as part of your sustainability reporting. Next, we have GRI 202 market presence. Again, it was released in 2016. So market presence contains disclosures for organizations to report information about their market presence related impacts and how they manage these impacts. No? So section 1 contains information about how the organization manages its market presence, and then section 2, ito na yung mga related disclosures. No? So there are two. So number 1, disclosure 202-1. So ratios of standard entry-level wage by gender compared to local minimum wage. So basically in this disclosure, we have to look into the proportion, no, of employees who are compensated based on wages subject to minimum wage rules. Ito madalas class, this is part of the disclosure made by the manufacturing entities, no? Kasi syempre pag in the factory, usually especially mga um, white collar job, no? So they are being paid out based on the minimum wage. When a significant proportion of other workers, excluding employees, performing the organization's activities are compensated based on wages subject to minimum wage, describe the actions taken to determine whether these workers are paid above the minimum wage. And usually naman in a manufacturing entity, those holding supervisorial roles, no? So they're being paid above the minimum wage, no? So that's one disclosure. Next, we have the proportion of senior management hired from the local community, no? So this is very important. When we say local community, it denotes, sabihin na natin if we're talking about Philippines, no? So ito yung mga local employees natin as opposed to expats, no? Yung mga foreign hire, no? So like for example, especially if your entity is a multinational company, so there could be employees from different parts of the world, no? So we have to also include that as a disclosure, no? So the proportion of senior management hired from the local company, no? Next, we have the GRI 203 or indirect economic impacts, no? Also released in 2016. So GRI 203 contains requirement which provides information about how the organization manages its indirect economic impacts. Section 2 contains two disclosures which provide information about the organization's indirect economic impacts. Ito class, itong subject natin, sustainability and strategic audit. Actually, this is more um, theoretical, no? So maganda lang dito, this is exciting kasi nga sustainability reporting, it's an evolving topic, no? It's a work in progress like I said. Tapos ang maganda rito, syempre, right now the Philippine Authority SEC is making it mandatory, no? So it's also an opportunity for us accountants to learn this so that we'll be able to contribute, no, to the company, uh, that will be engaged in the future, because for us to help them develop yung sustainability reporting nila. Kasi ang maganda rin dito, imagine, no, you're actually assessing your entity whether it's contributing uh, to the environment, to the economic and social and governance, no? So makikita natin dito, especially if the top management really um, mandates, no, or supports the development of sustainability report. Now hindi na nagiging question yun right now because of, well, the SEC circular, no, making it a mandatory part of the reporting. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is medyo boring to class, so please bear with me. Pero kung nakikita naman niyo yung flow ng discussion natin is we're trying to relate it, no, in the current scenarios, no, or real life situations, so that we'll be able to um, comprehend, no, so kung ano yung sinasabi nung in different standards that we're discussing today. Okay, so infrastructure investments and services supported, no? So extent of development of significant infrastructure investment and services supported, no? So current or expected impacts on communities and local economies, including positive and negative impacts, were relevant, no? So pansinin natin, no, sa San Miguel Corporation, no? So aside from the food business, so ito yung pure food sila, oil industry, Petron, no? So they're also right now, well, it started during the time of President Duterte. They also engage in different infrastructure uh, investments, no? So one good example of this would be the Skyway 3, no? Kung napansin nyo class, kung napadaan na kayo sa Skyway 3, ako personally, when it was opened, no, during the heights of the pandemic, it was opened, inorasan ko class, no? So from Pasay going to um, NLEX Balintawak, it took me 17 minutes, no? Yung 17 minutes na yun, within the speed limit pa yun na 60, no? 60 kilometer per hour. So previously, pag umuwi ako ng, dyan sa atin, sa Mariveles, ang daan ko is EDSA, and ako, kung na-try nyo na mag-drive sa EDSA, it takes you, well, at least, no, in my experience, 2.5 hours, no. So depende pa yun sa traffic, no. So at least with that infrastructure investment by San Miguel Corporation, no, so it saves me time, no. So but then there are positive and negative impacts, no. So negative impacts, sabi 'di ba nung time na yun, kung nanood kayo ng news at that time, it was only during the time of President Duterte, kasi na-implement in full kasi nga merong mga uh, within the community, no, they're against that, no. So I think it was they agreed to sit down with the president, no. So and then they were paid compensation, no, kasi syempre nung binild yung Skyway 3, merong mga properties, no, private properties that were uh, wiped out, no, due to the construction of those highways, no? So well, that's just one example. Next, we have significant indirect economic impacts. So examples of significant identified indirect economic impacts of the organization, including positive and negative, no? So um, there are different indirect economic impact, no? But one good example would be the uh, continued IT, no? So yung IT development, no? So for example, robotics, no? Especially in our profession, no? So robots can now perform transactional activities. Ano ba yung mga transactional activities in accounting, no? So posting of the accounts payable, uh, payment to our suppliers, no. So those are transactional, no. So when we say transactional, it's the process never changed, no. It's ay, ano to? Mukhang class, I think we have to rejoin, no, after 10 minutes. I'm not sure why, pero yung access ko, it's upgraded, no, but I think it expires already. But anyway, we can rejoin naman, no. So going back to indirect economic impact, no. So uh, yun nga, yung robotics, while it's good investment, no, it might impact professionals like us, no? So lalo na kung limbawa ikaw is, alam mo yung especially in the government, no? So kung limbawa puro ka lang stamp stamp stamp, no? And then here comes the robot, no? So ginawa ni robot, instead na mag-stamp ka pa, ginawa niya ng automated, no? So all you have to do is scan your document, and then it will be received um, in the website or in a certain platform, and then uh, you'll receive an electronic confirmation that's already received, no? So that's one indirect economic impact. Okay, next we have GRI 204, procurement practices, no? So procurement practices, we have to also include, no, disclosures in relation to our suppliers, no? So proportion of spending on local suppliers, no? Uh, so we have to define what's local, no? So in the Philippine setup, this will be those um, suppliers within the Philippines, no? Especially if you're a multinational, there could be suppliers outside of the Philippines, no? Next, we have GRI 205, Anti-Corruption, also released in 2016, no? So it contains disclosures for organizations to report information about their corruption related impacts and how they manage these impacts. So Section 1 contains or provides informations about how the organization manages its corruption-related impacts. And then Section 2, yung mga required disclosures. No? So operations assessed for risk related to corruption. So total number and percentage of operations assessed for risk related to corruption. Significant risk related to corruption. So ito na lang. Yung, di ba, with the implementation of the law, yung law ba yun, or executive order is of doing business in the Philippines. No? So basically, that particular law provides for the number of days lang daw, maximum number of days to register a business in the Philippines. No? So ito very recently, we've registered a business with Bacoor City Hall. So some well, though it's fast, no, meron pa rin mga rooms for improvement. But then because of that particular executive order, mas napabilis na. No? So kasi syempre kung it's electronic ay yung risk to bribe, no? Kasi 'di ba, kailan ba nagkakaroon ng exposure to corruption, no? So kung halimbawa may mga red tape, no? So kung halimbawa ano ba 'yan? Kung halimbawa may mga ah, alam mo yung mga under the table, no? So especially if you're a multinational companies, you do not engage in this type of practices. No? So communication and training about anti-corruption policies and procedures. No? So well, basically, etong disclosure na to, we have to make sure that we include, no? So those training programs in relation to anti-corruption policies and procedures, and as well as how we communicate those programs to our employees. No? So in our case, no, so as you know, I'm employed with Xerox. No? So actually, last year, Xerox Philippines was dissolved, no? And we were moved to another company called Tata Consultancy Services. No? But then we're still uh, servicing, no, or providing services to Xerox entities. No? So nangyayari, yearly we have these trainings, no, in relation to anti-corruption practices, no. So it's a mandatory training. So kung hindi mo siya gagawin, your your access to system will be removed, no. So that's why the company is really devoted, no, devoted to making sure that all their employees comply, no, or complete those anti-corruption trainings, no, on a yearly basis, no, so annual basis. Confirmed incidents of corruptions and what are the actions taken, no? So this is important, no? So kung halimbawa nangyari na, yes, sabihin natin na there are confirmed incidents of corruptions, ano yung mga ginawa nating steps to make sure that we mitigate those practices, no? So total number of confirmed incidents in which employees were dismissed or disciplined for corruption. Again, this is based on the employee handbook, no? So ano ba yung is it just a penalty, suspension ba yan, or termination of employment, no? Okay, next we have GRI 206, the anti-competitive behavior, also released in 2016. So it contains information about how the organization manages its anti-competitive behavior related impact and the required disclosure. No? So there's just one lang naman. So legal actions for anti-competitive behavior, antitrust, and monopoly practices. No? So we have to disclose the number of legal actions pending or completed during the reporting period regarding anti-competitive behavior, violations of antitrust and monopoly legislations in which the organization has been identified as a participant. No? So main outcomes of completed legal actions, including decisions and judgments. No? So this is one disclosure on 206. No? Next, ito na. Sige, let's pause for a break. Then we'll move to environmental impact. No? So ito yung GRI 301. No? So I'll stop sharing. And then I think